Big Kirk 916, positivity, motivation, never settle for average. You know how we do it over here. Go to bigkirk916.com and I will have the merch in the shop there. So, hey man, I went ahead and brought it under the Big Kirk umbrella along with Muscleup Detail Spray. So I'll be having both of those products in the shop so you can shop here at the website bigkirk916.com and pick you up some merch. Also, wash that ass. I told y'all, you don't be walking around stinking. Go pick you up a bundle of soap on the website bigkirk916.com and get that ass right. I want to do this video as a shout out to all the parents out there on this Christmas. And I know oftentimes parents don't get the credit they deserve for working with the tools that they were given. And kids have a tendency sometimes to blame the parents for all their shortcomings. And they don't want to take the responsibility that up until a certain point, a parent can only do what they have knowledge of providing. And you can't blame your parent for not blessing you with other ideas or things that they didn't know about. You know, you're supposed to take the torch from them and then take it further so that your kids could have better opportunities than you had. And there's times that I wish maybe I would have been pushed more in certain directions to further where I could currently be at, but I can't blame that on my mother, who was a young mom, and in her parenthood was trying to give me the best that she felt she could provide. And so, you know, at a certain point, I realized that it's up to me to take responsibility for learning certain things, to pursue certain things, to achieve certain things. And I was listening to Master P, and you know, talking about little Romeo, and you know how, you know, little Romeo was putting the business out there and trying to say things about his father, but if the roles were reversed, and you're talking about your dad having to hustle out of the projects of Louisiana to get to where he's at, and you know, give you a better future than what he had, man, if you put that in a perspective and you had to do that, could you have done it? Would you have done it? And to now be in your 30s and maybe, you know, feeling some kind of way about whatever situation. I don't know the family personally, but I just think that, you know, when you look at it and think about, like, man, up until a point, this man gave you better resources than 99.9% of the living population to work with. He gave you tools that kids would dream of, that parents would dream of providing for their kids, and made sacrifices. And, you know, along the path of making those sacrifices, you know, things happen. He's not perfect. No man is perfect, but he did what he had to do and got you to where you're at. And then once you create your own circle of friends and you started, you know, having your own family, there were choices you had to make, and you can't keep pointing backwards to say that where you're at is the result of your father not doing certain things for you, because you had a lot of tools, and it's always about evolving. And so, you know, it made me kind of think about this video because of all the mistakes I made in my life, but, you know, not having a father, not having access to certain things, but then I did have access to other things. I had grandparents. I didn't have a father, but I had two grandparents that, you know, did the best they could to help me have understanding of life and a better upbringing than what they had. So I have to be thankful for that. And so a lot of you young people, man, you still have a lot to be thankful. I mean, if your parents weren't the best parents, as far as maybe they didn't treat you a certain way, or maybe they were addicted to drugs or had other things that they did that weren't what a parent should do, then I send my well wishes, because I know you had no control over that as a young person. But if your parents did try to provide you the best tools and resources possible, then at some point you have to take responsibility, and you have to realize that, you got to cut them some slack, man, because, maybe they weren't perfect, but they did the best that they can do with what they had. And I always talk about that because, my grandfather, when he tells me stories, he didn't have his dad. And so he did the best he could based on how his grandmother raised him. And then, my mom did the best she could. And then I look at myself and how I turned out and what I share with you guys on social media, so that you can be better parents and hopefully carry on a legacy that send your family into a direction that's going to perpetuate in something successful. So be grateful, man. And, at a certain point, you got to start making some choices that are your choices based on your beliefs and not what your parents told you, because they told you up to a certain extent. But if you now have newfound knowledge, you have better access, better tools, then you have to take that responsibility. So it's just something to think about, man, and be grateful, be thankful on these holidays, and any day for that matter. It doesn't have to be a holiday, but what do you call it? I'm not gonna, sit here and pretend and do the fake love thing, because there's a lot of people that on the holidays want to pretend like each other, and I don't think that's right either. I think if you have a problem with somebody, you air it out in private, you put it on the table, work out your differences, and keep it pushing. But there's some people that I just prefer not to even try to engage, because I know they're not in my best interest. And blood or not, you gotta recognize. But as far as your parents, if your parents did the best they could, and you feel like you were wrong in some way, somehow, that's something you need to discuss with them, preferably in private, and work out the differences, because there's a lot of things we could work out if we talk about them, but when we hold those things in, they can fester and become negative energy and become toxic. And toxicity is not good for the body. It's not good for the soul. It's not good energy, period. So hey, have that conversation, but be open-minded to maybe think maybe you're not necessarily right, and that maybe both of you guys can learn from each other rather than try to point the blame. Big Herc 916.
Are you tired of smelling like Barbarian? You got a funky ball sack? Go to BigHerc916.com and pick up one of our bundles of soap. You have your nuts smelling right, and you'll be busting some cheeks.
Stop walking around with a crusty butt, smelly ball sack, and a funky hoo-ha. Big Herc said, wash that ass. Pick you up a t-shirt at FreshOutSeries.com.
Hello, I'm Big Herc 916. Contact me for life coaching and motivational speaking.